Well, my name's Alec Olsen. I farm on the Glengarry Road on 300 hectares, which is about 20 kilometres directly west of Napier. We're at an altitude of about 200 metres. What I'd like to talk about is the opportunities that most hill country farmers have to have their cake and eat it too. On this rolling hill country dissected by gullies and gorges, we have the good land, the flatter land and the rolling land where all the soil has managed to stay, but we have also these gullies and gorges where most of the soil has actually been taken off in rainstorm events. And there lies the opportunity for farmers to actually turn these liabilities into assets. Now they need planting and retiring anyway because of good reasons of soil conservation and cleaner water flowing down. But farmers can simultaneously fence these areas out, as you can probably see in the background out here, and plant them up in trees and simultaneously sort of create shelter and a home for native birds, soil stability, water, better scene, better place to live, I guess. And so, we effectively, for very little cost, turn liabilities into assets. After having planted or retired probably a third of the farm, we still run the same number of animals. The block of pine trees just out in front of us, not the distant forest, that's commercial forest, but the block of pine trees here is occupying a fairly severely eroded southerly facing gully system that had very little grazing indeed. In 1995 we planted it, fenced it out and planted it, and now we've stopped the erosion, we've got cleaner water, but better than that, the paddock to the right, the south being over that way, the paddock to the right is now sheltered instead of being extremely exposed to the south. And so, and in big westerly winds, we have shelter down in the front of this block. So all the problems are solved and we really haven't lost any grazing potential at all. And whatever little someone may argue we've lost, we've more than made up for by having sheltered pasture. Yeah, that's how it works. You see in the distance a row of pines. They're actually occupying a very steep gorge. I planted those in 1975. Doesn't seem like that long ago, but there they are. They're quite a number of years old. Now we harvested this side of the gorge last year, and we pulled out about 3 hectares of these protection trees. It was time for them to go, and of course we will replace them very soon. But that 3 hectares returned a net of about $65,000, and out of that $65,000, all I had to do was replace the fence along the edge that had to come out for the harvest. But the fence is 55 years old anyway, so what the hell, it needed doing. And so those trees, in that time, since 1975, these young pines, within 3 years, they're up there giving you bankable shelter, bankable benefits. And so they've been working for us all that time, holding the gorge edge, stopping the flat land from further slipping away, keeping the water cleaner and giving us tremendous shelter. So, it's win, win and win again. As far as financial return goes, and there are many variables because, sometimes the log market's up and sometimes it's down, and you are not forced to sell on any given day, not like growing a crop of potatoes or something like that. So we could have harvested these 5 or 6 years ago, but chose not to. But the market came up last year. China was in the market and they were paying fairly well. So it came out at about, we calculate about $22,000 a hectare net before tax. So I don't know if we could get that today, but I'm sure in the next decade the price will be up there again, and I won't be moving with the trees until it's back up there again. Some people tell me, that it's too late to plant trees, or they're too old, or they're too something. But the block of eucalypts just over here showing up in the sun, my father planted those at age 46, and it was a block of experimental eucalypts, several different species. And Later on, we had the privilege of harvesting 2 or 3 of those trees. They were eucalyptus botryoides we chose to mill and turned them into flooring for our new house in Napier. And that timber is just superb. Rich, red, hard, durable timber that would, and the fact that it came off the farm for minimal cost is a real bonus. Oh, here we are in our 2011 planting. Simply a fence around the edge of a nasty little gorge. Should have been done years ago. The animals get down here and they can fall over the banks. The sheep can get caught in the blackberry, which we've just sprayed. But the value of the grazing down here is actually not very much at all. It's fully planted in oaks, and there's a row of oaks here at the front. There's redwoods, there's thuja, and there's a whole smorgasbord of natives all the way up to sort of reinforce the natives that are existing down there. Now, if we came back here in 5 or 10 years' time, the south being that way, we would have this beautiful sheltered area just out here, and a whole heap of oaks along here to give beautiful autumn colour, and perhaps some high quality timber in the future. This was extremely easy to do. The autumn scene here in a few years' time is going to be very pretty indeed, and a few pretty pictures around the farm don't hurt anybody, and probably makes it a better working environment, which is just as important as shelter and all the rest of it. Well, here we have a block that was planted in 2003, so 8 years old at the moment, and I've just given them a bit of a prune. I haven't taken the culls out yet, but here we have high-class timber in the making in another 20 or 30 years' time. And along the front, just to have a little bit of colour and sort of useful trees in a different way, food trees, we've got walnut. In fact, there's a maple down at the end that the nurseryman gave me, and the colour of that is absolutely spectacular. Just takes that one tree in brilliant red to set this whole scene off. But here we have, really, it's a gully just like the one that we've just planted this year. It wasn't doing much in terms of feeding livestock, and now we have a shelter asset, we have a bit of a food crop, and we have a long-term timber resource. So it's doing everything for us. We're losing nothing and gaining everything. And that's really the nature of planting gullies on hill country farms. It just makes so much sense. Oh, another obvious benefit of planting timber blocks is for retirement income and succession planning. We've been planting our own trees since, our own forest crops since, 1974, and we haven't actually had any major harvests yet, 3 hectares in one, but we've still got these blocks of trees that are just gaining in value to be harvested when it's strategic to do so. The block that we're looking at in the background here, that's planted in 1995, was a joint venture with my partner, just to sort of spice up retirement income, I suppose. They're just such an obvious choice to do this. The trees over here, these were planted around about 1890. The big radiata here, and there's eucalypts in behind them. And here we are, 120 years later, still getting the benefits from the wisdom of those farmers who planted trees in 1890. Well, I suppose after planting for so many years, I should give a take-home message. And I guess it's to act. Don't sit there pontificating about it, waiting for the perfect answer to come, because until you get some trees in the ground, you don't have any options. Once they're in the ground, and it doesn't take a lot to work out how to do that, put up a fence, plant the trees, and from there on you have options to increase their value or whatever. But don't delay, don't procrastinate in planting your trees. Get stuck in and do it. And I guess my only regret with all the tree planting was that I had the option of planting a largish block when I was 18, and I didn't because of peer group pressure at that time, which sounds pretty silly, but I had that option. If I had planted, say, a good 20 hectare forest when I was 18, when I had all that energy, it wouldn't have cost much, I would be mortgage free today. And so yeah, if you're a young farmer watching this, or an old farmer, but a young farmer, you're probably cash poor and energy rich. You can get stuck in and create a good big block for you to get your teeth in, and by the time you're 40 or 50, you'll be getting some real income back again to pay some of those, serious costs that come to a young family guy at about then.